was a dark and stormy night. The wind was howling, and the rain was pouring down in sheets. I was driving home from work, exhausted and eager to get into my warm bed. But fate had something else in store for me. As I drove down the empty country road, my car suddenly sputtered and died. I cursed under my breath and pulled over to the side of the road. I got out and opened the hood, hoping to find the problem. But to my dismay, I couldn't figure out what was wrong. It was pitch black and I had no cell service. I was completely lost. I decided to start walking, hoping to find a house or a gas station. The rain was relentless, soaking me to the bone. I walked for what felt like hours, but there was no sign of civilization. I was beginning to feel a sense of unease. The trees seemed to be closing in on me, and the wind sounded like whispers. I tried to push the thoughts out of my mind and focused on finding help. But the more I walked, the more lost I became. Suddenly, I heard a strange noise coming from the woods. It sounded like someone was crying. I stopped in my tracks, my heart pounding in my chest. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. There was no answer, only the sound of the wind and rain. I took a few hesitant steps towards the sound, my curiosity now overcoming my fear. As I got closer, the crying turned into laughter. It was a high-pitched, maniacal laughter that sent chills down my spine. I turned to run, but I tripped over a tree root and fell to the ground. As I scrambled to get up, I saw a figure emerging from the darkness. It was a woman, but her face was twisted into a grotesque grin. Her eyes were black pits, and her hair was wild and tangled. I screamed and ran as fast as I could, not daring to look back. The laughter was getting closer, and I could feel her hot breath on my neck. I ran blindly, not knowing where I was going, but I didn't care as long as I could get away from that woman. Just when I thought I couldn't run any longer, I saw a faint light in the distance. I ran towards it, my heart racing and my breath coming in short gasps. As I got closer, I saw that it was a small cabin in the woods. I banged on the door, praying that someone would answer. To my relief, a man opened the door. He looked at me with concern and let me in. I collapsed on the floor, my body shaking with fear and exhaustion. I told the man about the woman in the woods, but he didn't seem surprised. "You're not the first person to come running to this cabin, begging for help," he said with a sad smile. "That woman has been terrorizing this area for years." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could someone be so cruel and evil? The man explained that the woman was once a patient at a nearby mental hospital. She had escaped and had been living in the woods ever since. Her mind had snapped, and she was now a danger to anyone who crossed her path. I shuddered at the thought and thanked the man for his hospitality. He gave me a warm blanket and some hot tea to calm my nerves. As I sat by the fire, I couldn't help but think about the woman in the woods. Would she come for me again? Would I ever make it out of this nightmare alive? The man assured me that he would drive me back to my car in the morning. But as the night wore on, my fear grew stronger. Every creak and rustle in the cabin made me jump. I couldn't shake off the feeling that the woman was still out there watching and waiting. I don't know how long I sat there, wide awake and on edge, but eventually exhaustion took over and I drifted off to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was shining and the storm had passed. The man drove me back to my car and I made it home safely. But the memory of that night will haunt me forever. I learned the hard way that sometimes getting lost at night can lead to a horror beyond imagination. And I will never forget the woman in the woods, waiting for her next victim in the darkness.